Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana. Folks, we are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome to the world via the magic of the internet. And of course, I forgot to state that, yes, our 100,000 watt transmitter, which has the ability to get to every nook and cranny in those areas that I just mentioned. Yes, we're still up and running. Anyway, folks, we intend on having a great show for you today. Of course, today is Aquino Day. It's Thursday, and he's going to be in the studio with us. Well, virtually, that is. But before we get started, let's go ahead and bring in the geniuses that make this thing happen, the ones that keep the strings and tin cans and all those things connected so that you can hear these programs that is intent on making us all smarter, making us all more active. Anyway, buenos dias, mis hermanos. ¿Cómo están? How are you doing, my brothers?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. It was tough getting out of the cranny this morning. I think I sprained my back.
Oh, my God. I know that hurts.
I don't even know. Oh, yeah. Well, got to say thank you to our friends over at iHeartMedia who donated some equipment to us yesterday. They had some unused equipment and said, you know what? We're going to give it to our community radio station. And what they did. So we went over and got it. And boy, I'll tell you what, there is a 7-foot equipment rack that must weigh 300 pounds. This thing is solid built. I've just got to figure out how many horses and how many people I'm going to need to get it upstairs to use it. So thank you, iHeartMedia. We appreciate you.
Are you going to replace a rack that we have in the closet, or are you going to put, or are you just going to make it an addition? Got it.
Yeah, it's an addition. We've got some servers that are sitting on a folding table right now, cranking away and sending out that 100,000 watt signal. So I wanted to do something a little better for them as they are working away up there, put them in racks and clean that area up. You know, we got some more equipment to put into it. So it was a very timely gift and we appreciate it. Jack, what you got, man? You got they got a half a page of wisdom over there for us. So wisen us up, will you?
Oh, yeah, we need to get wised up.
Wise us up here.
Boy, wise guys. All right, good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, my brother. All's good. By the way, Neil is on the other side of the virtual wall as well.
All right, Neil. Fascism is when government and big business unite against the citizens. In World War II, America fought against aggression and fascism. Now look at us. The neoliberalists want to embrace fascism because they can steal from the poor and give to the rich, kind of Robin Hood in reverse. So they can finance wars of aggression for profit. The only way to fight fascism is to starve it economically. As the Big Lebowski said in 2024, This aggression will not stand, man.
Yeah, I like that part, man. Right.
Yeah,
man.
it is interesting. Before I get started with Neil or anything, I just want to make mention, as usual, the Trump campaign knows how to mislead folks and try to disparage people's service, etc. And yesterday, I think it was when they came out and they attacked the new vice presidential candidate for claiming, he's trying to protect us against having weapons of war. And he made a statement that says something to the effect of, this is what I use in war. And not specifically saying that he was in any war, though he was in many theaters training people for war, where he lost his hearings, part of his hearing. But they try to turn his 24 plus years of service to this country into a liability. They're trying to swift boat him like they did John Kerry back in the early 2000s, I believe it, or late 90s, I believe it was. And the one thing that I want to say here is I hope that the Harris campaign, does not put too much merit into this, but immediately go on the attack, pointing out that when it was time for Donald Trump to serve in his heyday, he took a spur deferral, and also that J.D. Vance wasn't one of these weapon guys in the military. He was actually like a reporter or journalist or something of that sort. I'd like them to just point that out and then immediately pivot from it. It's not worthy to have these kinds of discussions. That is what they want to have. So far, what I've seen the Harris campaign do is completely ignore the statement and keep on telling America in a positive manner what an administration from a Harris-Walz administration would do for the American people, and also to make it quite clear that Donald Trump is not fit to serve. I think they need to do as a dignified attack on Trump to simply put a stop and shut him up. Those are just my thoughts. But as it turns out, once again, we need to make it clear that Donald Trump was in fact a draft dodger. In the case of Walz, he was too young to have any real serious. Come on, I had to sign up for the Selective Service, but we all knew there was no draft. All right. Anyway, good morning, El Señor Neil Aquino. How are you doing this morning, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. Jack mentioned World War II. I was just, a couple of weeks ago, I was at the World War II Memorial and the Vietnam and Korean memorials in Washington. And what struck me about all of them were there's actually an absence of militarism at those places. There's more sort of a contemplative or a spirit of some sadness at the Korea and Vietnam ones. And it was difficult to be at those things and to think how you could see them as expressions of militarism or aggression. They commemorated the dead and the sadness of war, and it was just interesting to me that rather than gung ho and let's go get them, they were more places of reflection and respect for service. And here we see again denigrating service, and then Trump, of course, who didn't even go.
It is amazing. It is amazing. But anyway, you have quite a bit to tell us today, Neil. You wrote a letter to every single council person. Why don't you give us a synopsis of this letter that you sent to every? And by the way, Neil is a good community servant, and he's acknowledged that we have the power to address our leaders, the people we put into office, and he did just that. And it's something that we all need to remember that we have the power to do. But go ahead, Neil.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. Of course, this shows an expression of volunteer leadership. And we talked about this at length last week. There's an ordinance before Houston City Council that would prohibit persons from protesting in front of homes. And the spur of the ordinance is that Mayor Whitmire is mad at the Palestinian folks who've been coming to his home. The issue is immaterial. It doesn't matter what the issue is, but that's what he's mad at. So he brought it to council last week in a surprise measure. He brought it up on a Monday, right before the deadline where you could sign up for public speaking, for discussion. Wednesday, 4 council members, Pollard, Thomas, Plummer, and Tarsha Jackson, tagged it is the term they use, which is a temporarily tabling of it. And there was no council this week. So the issue comes tomorrow. I'll read a bit from my letter I sent, but I also want to. I'm an active member of our Houston LGBTQ political caucus. The caucus, people will think about it, or you go to the West Gray polling, and you get the caucus card, or you're mailed the card, and it's a sought after endorsement. And that the board allowed me to speak for a few minutes yesterday at the monthly meeting, and the caucus, by about a vote of 24-1 of the membership present, voted to oppose this ordinance. There was a debate among the membership, and so that again, you can, if you're a caucus member, you can ask the board to speak and bring up an issue. And I was glad that I had done it. And a representative from Senator Molly Cook said that Senator Molly Cook would be coming out against it, which I appreciate. So I wrote to each member of council. There are 16 members of council, 11 district, and 5 at large. And I'll just be succinct. Mayor Whitmire's proposed that City Council approve significant restrictions on the rights of Houstonians to protest. The spur for the ordinance is personal grievance. Mayor Whitmire's mad about a specific group protesting at his home. Score settling is no way to make law in the 4th largest city. He went on and on about he has been inconvenienced. Mayor Whitmire's ordinance is to his telling about the peace and security of neighborhoods, but what it really accomplishes is protecting elected officials from democracy. Protest would remain allowed on residential sidewalks. You can protest on a sidewalk. You don't need a permit. The First Amendment is your permit. Only a few, such as Mayor Whitmire and Senator Cruz, would be held exalted above the First Amendment Constitution. The ordinance says, we talked about this last week, a person can be cited for protesting with or without signs. And Egberto commented last week how that would lead to profiling. How can the intentions of a person without a sign be known? And who will be given the ability to profile and define the intent and mindset of someone deemed as a potential protester? It also extends enforcement powers to civilians. The process of enforcement can be begun with a person with authority to control the use of the residents being picketed. It doesn't even say homeowner. So just whomever this person is, such a person can tell police who's not following their instructions to move, and now it's time for citations and arrest. And I asked if I could have the same authority, if I could begin the citation process for red light runners and street racers. Can I just call the police and say, hey, they need to be pulled over? So they're giving the power to these aggrieved people. Because of Texas law, you could now walk down the street with an AR-15. You can already do that, but you can't stand in front of a protester's home. And it defies belief that this is the political environment in which council is considering taking away the rights of Houstonians. Don't we already have enough political leaders working to take away our rights? And I ended saying to the council members, vote no, do it for yourselves. The rights that Mayor Whitmire is seeking to diminish are rights that each of you may need soon enough. None of you are safer from the ongoing authoritarian threat than any other citizen. And I sure did mean that. Members of council, they're as vulnerable or more vulnerable than myself to what's going on. So I wrote that letter. Anyone can email their Houston City Council, and they can also still speak. They're going to discuss this issue Tuesday. My understanding is the Palestinian folks are bringing in a lot of people. I've not heard from a local ACLU, and I also wish that there was a broader civil rights community that was speaking. And it is disappointing. I've not heard from the ACLU, the NAACP, the Urban League, all sorts of LULAC. Everyone's at vulnerability from this, and we haven't seen an institutional speaking up.
Now, I want to thank you for that, Neil. I want to go into an article that I wrote last night, and the reason I want to read this article, and remember, we are an informative organization here. We are here to inform. We are here to educate, and we know that Cruz was complicit in the attempted overthrow of the United States government. And we also should not allow that. We shouldn't allow in his reelection that he's able to sort of con his way into fooling people based on how things occur. So recently, Kim Og endorsed Ted Cruz. Kim is a Democrat. Ted Cruz is a Republican. Again, a Republican who was complicit in the attempted overthrow of the United States government, given his support for Donald Trump. So I wrote a take with a title. I said, "Why DA Kim Og must be expelled from the Democratic Party for her Ted Cruz endorsement." And I think that is an existential statement, and I'll explain why. Let's be clear. This is the article. Let's be clear. Harris County District Attorney Kim Og can't endorse Ted Cruz under the law. Can't endorse Ted Cruz under the law and order moniker. Ted Cruz was a participant in the attempted coup on America via his support for Donald Trump. Cruz's support for Donald Trump, a wannabe dictator, a sexual abuser, a tax cheat, a thief, and a fraudster, makes it clear that law and order could not possibly be a motivational factor. Kim, and so that goes against what she claims and does with her own constituents. Kim Og's endorsement seems to be found on the Behind a Vote Twitter X account. I include a screen grab in case she needs to remove the most immoral and disingenuous endorsement I have seen this election cycle. Og is using a Republican immigrant trope that is dangerous. Every murder is heinous. Centralizing the murder committed by a Venezuelan immigrant and projecting it onto the immigrant community is dangerous and immoral. It is a play to the planted fears of Americans. It is a fact that immigrants, documented and undocumented alike, have a much lower crime rate than native-born Americans. Ironically, Congressman Colin Allred, Ted Cruz's Democratic opponent, is campaigning on border security and working to solve the problem bipartisanly. At the same time, Ted Cruz voted against a conservative border security bill primarily written by Oklahoma's most conservative senator, James Lankford. Yet, instead of supporting her purported party's Democratic candidate, she endorsed Republican Ted Cruz. The expectation is clear. Texas is rapidly moving leftward. Ted Cruz needed to show that he had Democratic votes. They want to instill an unwarranted fear in all about immigrant crime and then permit Democrats to vote for the Republican under the premise that Harris County's chief law and order enforcer, Democratic DA Kim Og, endorsed him. It is a cynical move, but most importantly, it is dangerous to immigrants specifically and all of us in the aggregate. Kim Og's move is more dangerous than scapegoating immigrants or lying about the increase in crime. As an immigrant and naturalized citizen, like millions of Americans, it is offensive that the DA would use us as pawns. That is a Republican play that should never raise its head in the Democratic Party. The DA has been admonished by the Harris County Democratic Party before for stances she has taken that were right out of the right-wing playbook. from indicting a black man for voting to charging of a South Asian doctor for theft of COVID-19 vaccine doses. And of course, there were the attacks on County Judge Hidalgo and Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Get the picture? Republican appeasement. Crime was high under Trump and has declined under President Joe Biden. Donald Trump attempted a coup on January 6th. Ted Cruz's support for Trump at all costs has made him complicit. Trump has given every indication that if elected, he would be an autocrat. The Supreme Court has given him carte blanche, which allows him immunity for any crime he commits in the White House. And Ted Cruz continues to be a Trump enabler and facilitator. Democrats' messaging is correct and precise. Donald Trump and his sycophants, Ted Cruz inclusive, are a clear and present danger to women's freedom, precisely, and to all our freedoms. Any Democrat supporting a Trump sycophant becomes complicit in Trump's criminality and the undermining of democratic messaging. As such, it is incumbent that anyone doing so is expelled from the Democratic Party. In this case, one cannot allow Ted Cruz to campaign under the tenet that he has Democratic support for Texas's largest county's chief law enforcer. It is incumbent on every Democratic politician in Harris County to speak on the issue. We must be unified going to the 2024 election to ensure that every American citizen is educated. Every American citizen also understands what a clear and present danger means. In our chat today, we have Eric Hayes and Priscilla Micochero, who says Trump 2024. Priscilla Micochero, I assume that you're a woman based on your name. I could be wrong, but I think you're a woman. If you are endorsing or if you're putting in a chat that you are in fact endorsing somebody who thinks little of women, that he can grab onto their private parts. If you are telling me that you support somebody who steals and you support all of that, that's fine. It's a free country. The question is, if you have kids, can you look them in the eye ever again and tell them to do what's right and to follow the law? Can you look at your son and tell your son not to rape women, not to be disparaging to women? Can you tell your daughter and son not to go out there and steal or defraud people? I think it's incumbent on everyone to be careful on what they're showing our kids. Because again, your kid's biggest supporter or your kid's biggest person that they look up to is generally a parent. And a parent who says the country could be run by somebody who has been convicted of sexual assault should be careful as far as what the kid will think about them thereafter. Let's go to Donald, who is on line number 1.
Good morning, Egberto Ross. How are you today? You paint the picture. But this is for Neil. Honestly, I'm not talking to you today because that's the way we do things now.
All right.
Hey, Neil, you better watch it because we no longer are free in America. You don't have to be read your Miranda rights. They only record intermittently what they want. And when it's transcribed and it goes to court, and now they're pushing people through court. And guess what? You're on probation while you're going to court. As soon as you're allegedly convicted, you're paying a $65 a month supervision fee. You're urinating in a cup at $22 a pop. You're calling in every day. And you just better be careful because you are guilty until you prove your innocence in today's society.
Right. I actually read a lengthy article about you referenced the cameras, the body cameras. I'm not an expert on these things, but I read a lengthy article that the police like the body cameras because it helps create a facial recognition database, and that the police cameras have become actually a huge data grab for police forces. For the other things you detail on probation, after arrest. I don't have personal experience with it. I'll take your word for it. It rings true, and the absence of freedom and the persistence of surveillance and the criminal justice system being all encompassing are not difficult cases to make. So I agree with you as far as I know it to be true.
Okay,
Donald?
and on yesterday, John said, yes, Egberto, we're going to follow you so we know where your house is, and we're going to protest outside of it, but we're not going to throw eggs. We're going to cook them up in some mezcali or something like that, or breakfast burritos. Then we're going to put on a pot of coffee, and you're welcome to come on out and eat.
You see why I love Donald? Donald is going to come and protest me as he feeds me. That's what I am talking about when I talk about civility.
That's what we're going to break bread. All right.
There you go. I love you, brother. Love you, brother. I love you, brother. Let's get to Eli. Go ahead.
All the ordinance does
Go ahead, Neil.
All the ordinance does is shift things 200 feet because the mayor talks about peace and security of neighborhoods. So if 50 people came to Mayor Whitmire's home for Puerto Rican statehood, the cause is immaterial. The ruckus, to the extent there's a ruckus, would just be deflected 200 feet. So I call it a Privileged Protection Act or a Protect Elected Officials from Democracy Act. It doesn't even protect the neighbors. It just
there you go.
Moves it down. And when you were talking your Kim Ogg stuff, I wrote a blog post this week, HoustonDemocracyProject.com. You talked about everyone who supports Cruz is complicit with this. There's a Republicans for Harris group, and every elected Republican locally are Commissioner Ramsey at the Commissioner Court, the 6 Houston City Council Democrats, all of them, every day has the opportunity to reject Trump. Every single day has the opportunity to reject Trump. And if they don't take themselves up on it, you should take it at face value.
This is not the thing. Rejecting Trump is not a partisan issue. Rejecting Trump is rejecting somebody who attempted to overthrow the country. That's what it's all about. I mean, folks, if you had Kim Ogg endorsing, let's say, somebody that was moral, somebody that was actually, I can name, well, not anymore, but I could name Republicans that I've voted for before that, they did good things. In fact, there is a congressman in my district, a Republican, that I actually voted for because of what he did with younger kids when he was a judge. He subsequently changed into a bad person, but everybody that touches Trump seems to get spoiled. But it's like you put a bad apple in a container, and suddenly you lose your moral.
They don't run everything. They don't resist it. And with Kim Ogg, for as much as we criticize Whitmire, Whitmire in his heart I believe he believes Democrat. Whitmire endorsed Harris. You don't agree with Whitmire's approach, but I believe he believes he's a Democrat. This Ogg stuff is a whole different.
It's another level. I mean, I put a link onto an article that actually points out. I had Kim Ogg on the program. I'm coming to you, Ilan. I had Kim Ogg on the program where I gave her the option to answer all these questions. And we had a very amiable conversation. In fact, when she was coming on, she called and said, hey, so am I coming on or not? Because, again, I had interviewed Tier, who was running against her. And I said, open doors. And I had tried to reach her. I finally got a call from her late Sunday that day. And I said, come on the program on Monday. And she came on. But my point is, you cannot endorse a criminal and claim that you are a law-abiding district attorney. Tim Cruz was directly complicit on the January 6th issue. In fact, we have where he was involved in some of that sort of quasi-planning, if you will. Welcome aboard, Billy Allison Irwin. From Summerwood, as well as Allison Dreams on the chat. And by the way, for Eric Hayes, what was the poll this morning? Let's make his day. What was the Marquette poll this morning?
Marquette Law School, and they do polling of Wisconsin. So this was released yesterday, a reputable poll. The new Marquette Law School poll, national survey, blah, blah, blah. Among likely voters, Harris 53, Trump 47, registered voters 52-48. Now, some polls have undecided, others don't. I don't know, but that's where it's at.
Yeah, it's funny because those.
What's that?
Yeah, those two numbers are outside the polling error now.
Right, and if you include Kennedy, and we've seen a lot of stories about Kennedy with freezers full of roadkill. Harris 52, Trump. This is national. Harris 50. Trump 42 and Kennedy 6. I don't know why anyone who's voting for Robert Kennedy thinks they are at this point. But that's what I think. People just take up the name when offered it.
I know. Okay, let's go to Ilan. Ilan, come on in, brother. Ilan, come on in, nice sir. How you doing?
Oh, good morning, Egberto. I have 4 quick statements to make, ideas to throw out. First, I want to commend you on the discussion of the local politics, the grassroots politics, city and county and so forth. That's where it all starts. Secondly, I feel that the media has been negligent in an opportunity to do reporting on all these bombs and bullets that are being manufactured and sent overseas to fight all these wars. Where are they? How much is it costing us, and where are they made in the United States? Thirdly, on the national level, if I have a chance to speak with candidates, I want to dwell upon ranked choice voting, getting rid of the Electoral College, and Medicare for all. And lastly, I want to call the people's attention that there's all this stuff about people going across the border, but every day in our border cities, El Paso, Eagle Pass, Brownsville, wherever, thousands and thousands of people from Mexico come over to the United States to work daily jobs. Even if it's just a housekeeper or something like that. I used to live in El Paso, so I know this to be true. So that's something that's overlooked as well, is so many of the people who come across the borders are not seeking to be immigrants. They're coming over here to work because they're needed and they're called for. So that's all. I hope I threw some thoughts out there, and thank you.
Well, look, thank you for your thoughts, Ilan. Very important. Let me just say, I'm glad you brought up the immigrant issue. I am an immigrant. I am a legal U.S. citizen that went through the entire, what is it called? I was naturalized here in the United States. So, I'm a full United States citizen. And I can tell you one thing, becoming a U.S. citizen meant I needed to learn a whole lot of U.S. history. What I find disconcerting is a lot of the people that are beating up on immigrants and all the issues that they're doing, they don't know their own history. Those of us who come in here and go through the process have to learn everything there is to know about federalism, everything that you have to know about the Constitution, and we are tested on it to become U.S. citizen. It's incumbent on this country to start doing that with its own native-born Americans, because the demise of a country occurs when you forget your history, good and bad. And, you want to say something, Neil?
I just briefly, I'll come back to a point when I took the tour of the United States Capitol, and they start you off 3 weeks ago with a 20-minute movie. Nicely produced, fancy movie. And I just sat there watching that, and just thinking, how can you support storming and run through the Capitol and insurrection? And I'm trying to convey almost an emotional experience, on the air here. But just walking around and seeing, you're talking about our history, to go to the Lincoln Memorial and the King. And I was just, there's, obviously people are going to disagree, and there's only two parties for 330 million people, two major, but it was just difficult to walk around those things and think about people who want to tear it down.
Oh, and again, and the reason they have been not successful but marginally disruptive is because of the uneducation, the lack of education, but anyway, let's go to Brother Joe. Come on in, Joe.
Hey, good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, sir.
You want to say one thing, but then when you sit on hold, you change your mind and want to say something else. But I wanted to say good on you, Neil, for standing up for the First Amendment.
Thank you.
The other day, someone remarked that the winds of change appeared to be, affecting me, and it's not because of your the people who were appointed to be the top of the Democrat ticket, and the basement campaign that they're now running. There's nothing new about that. We've seen that before. The wind of change comes from recent events where, you recorded me without my knowledge and published it on your website.
Wait, hold on. No, I got it. No, stop. I got to correct that. You're sir. No, stop.
I need a minute.
No, Joe. Joe, no. I said no. Stop. Here is the deal, folks. This show is on podcast, no matter who calls, whatever happens. Yesterday, you called my brother and you disparaged me. You lied about what occurs here. And today, you make it seem like I'm doing something untoward. That is false. This is a public station, and everybody who calls here calls in voluntarily. And there is absolutely nothing at all that is untoward to that. Do not make that implication. I've given you a platform consistently on this show. Appreciate that you can't go to the Berry Show and get this platform that you've gotten. Have some respect. Continue. All right. I think he's gone. Let's go to Stephen.
Good morning, gentlemen. Wow.
Good morning, sir.
If I can get the best way I can say it is just wow. I remember when you had Kim All gone, I actually called into that program, and I still ask why it is that Mr. Goins is still allowed to be in the position that he's in, along with his co-conspirators. If you or I had went to a bank and I went in to rob it, unbeknownst to you, still, if I had killed someone inside that bank and come out by the law of parties, we both would be we would both be prosecuted for capital murder. In that same mindset, there are actually 12 defendants that should be on trial for capital murder. Yet we have no one. There's seemingly not going to be any justice for that family in the Heights to have proper recourse. Furthermore, if she endorses a Republican politician for no good reason other than she does so, she does not take into account, particularly as a law enforcement officer, the account that he is a liar and he supports a liar, then what are we to glean from that? That she too must be a liar? That she too is some
Yeah. Steve, Steve, we dropped you accidentally. Go ahead and call back and finish your comment. But for now, we'll go to line 2 until Steve comes back. But Stephen, please call us back. I am so sorry. Let's go to line 2. Line 2, who am I speaking to?
That's me, Brian.
Yeah, come on in, Brian.
Yeah. When are you going to let the Democratic Party be for real and stop playing y'all for a fool?
Now, how are they doing that again now, Neil? I mean, not Neil. How are they doing that again, Brian?
Okay. You've got a presumptive elected official running for the highest office in the land, but they've not been primaried yet.
Okay.
Why?
Okay. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Brian, let's be clear. Okay. Every party has rules, and all the rules for the Democratic Party were followed. You don't have to like them, but that's what the Democratic Party voted as their rules. You have the Republican Party that have their rules, including last year their rules said, we won't even come out with a platform. We'll just do what Donald Trump tells us to do. So please, let's get on to a subject, my brother, that moves us forward. The rules are the rules, and they were followed by the Democratic Party. There's no snowing. And in fact, it seems to me like the Democratic members of the Democratic Party, members of the Republican Party, and members of the independency, those who are independents, love what they're seeing. They love that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are there, and that's why they're leading in the polls again. It's simple. It's not nobody being snowed. We think the people that are being snowed are the ones who are willing to elect a sexual abuser and a thief to the highest land. We think those people are. How could you think about doing that, Brian? That's how we feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you, Brian,
they didn't have a primary election. They didn't have a primary election.
Brian, I said we already answered that. I just answered you and said we followed the rules. There's no more to that. Right. So after I answered your question and said we followed the Democratic Party rules, my question to you was, how could you support putting a thief and a sexual abuser in the Oval Office? How could you vote for that and look at your kids? I just answered your question. Could you answer mine?
I don't have any children. I don't have any children. And yes.
Okay. Well, how could you? Well, still. Okay. Good. Good. That tells me about some morality there. Thank you, Brian. I got to run to Stephen back because we dropped him, but I appreciate your honesty. Let's go to Stephen. Come on in, Stephen.
Real quick.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Now, there were two illegal aliens from China. It was caught in Texas with $250,000 in gold. The Biden administration has let 37,000 illegal aliens from China enter this country, and half of them, he doesn't know where they're at. Now think about your children.
No, I think about again, I'm an immigrant, so I understand very well how these things work. Let's go to Stephen. Stephen, I'm sorry you got cut off. Continue your point, my brother.
Yes. To continue right quickly, Egberto, as I was saying, if you and I were to, you were to drive me to a bank, I go inside and I rob it as a part of the offense, I killed someone. They would have no problem trying us both for capital murder. You would have to do everything under the sun to delineate yourself away from me. So being said, Goins and the 12 members of that team should all have been charged capital murder. Yeah, but we've not seen any real movement from Kim Ogg's office on this thing other than to find a way in which to not prosecute them. This is why I thought initially she was a great DA selection. but now not so much. And anybody that would support a liar, thief, and a sexual deviant by proxy into the Oval Office seems to be of questionable character to me. I'm just saying.
Stephen, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And the issue about police officers getting away with murdering people all of the time, and in this case, it is sad, but that is who these law and order people tend to support. It's not law and order; it's law and order for the few, and you know what, for the rest. But anyway, thank you, Stephen, for calling back. I need to jump to Johnny. The phones are filling up and I only have like 8 minutes. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Thank you, Stephen. Let's go to Brother Johnny. Come on in, Johnny. How are you doing this morning?
Frustrated and borderline angry. I am so sick and tired of when someone calls into this radio station and they start off with, you need to donate to this radio station. Well, that's fine. But that doesn't give this person license, permission to constantly insult us on a personal level, acting as if we are totally incapable of calling out the people on our side, whether we are actual Democrats or progressives like me who only vote for certain Democrats that are progressive. I don't appreciate it, and I want this person to stop doing this. Use your intellect to attack your party, your people, your tribe, and that's where we start. If you start doing that and get your friends to do it, we got a chance of saving this country. It's not going to get saved if you keep attacking us and acting as if we don't know what's going on, like we're the idiots here. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Johnny. It's important because, like I said, and I've been more much heavier in the way I say it now. Anybody, and I mean this from the depths of my heart, anybody who votes for Trump, in effect, they're saying it is okay to put a sexual abuser, a thief in the Oval Office. And I want you to think deeply the message that you send to your kids, deeply the message, because at that point, nobody claiming law and order, etc., and freedom could possibly do that. Let's go to Harry. Harry, you got a minute. I'm running out of time. Thank you, my brother, Harry.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to keep it short. I wanted to say a lot, but the first thing I wanted to well, good morning, Neil. Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Howard. Love you guys. And good morning, El Professor Egberto Willis. Anyway.
Buenos días, hermano.
Are a billionaire or a millionaire? Yes. Muy bien, brother. If you are a billionaire or a millionaire and you have children, as you've been saying the whole program, Egberto, they're thinking about another tax cut if Trump gets in there, and they're okay with those negative values that Trump brings that you have been talking about with the sexual assault, the stiffing people, robbing people, and ripping people off, the mortgage fraud, the tax fraud, all the stuff he's done, the fake electors, all that stuff. I was listening on NPR yesterday. Joe Biden was talking. He was saying that if Trump loses, people should take him at his word about that bloodbath statement, that he's not going to sit still for it. And we may have another January 6th. I'm concerned.
Thank you, Harry.
I think be ready.
I got to go. So a minute and 30 seconds. So let's talk tomorrow. Call a little bit earlier, my brother. Thank you. All right, let's run to the brother Tag. Come on in, Tag. 1 minute, Tag.
Egberto, this morning, listening to one of your right-wing callers makes me think that, I'm not so concerned about the violence from migrants. I'm more concerned about the Christian nationalists and the right-wing violence is my concern. And if any of these people want to try to convince me that these migrants are all that dangerous, they're going to have to go a long ways, because I'm just not buying it. They're a lot more violent than anybody is. So
thank you. I mean, Tag, thank you for saying that, because that has been factually proven out that it's the right. Go ahead, Anil.
Good. That's we talked a little bit about this. we've got these conceptions of public safety that don't involve democracy. I say all the time, there's no public safety without democracy. When I'm talking about Senator Cruz issued a list of police unions. We talked about his participation in insurrection, police unions that have endorsed him, including our Harris County sheriffs and leadership of the Houston Police Officers Union. And it's very concerning that our police officers support this lawlessness.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that, Neil. All right, Tag. Thank you. I got to jump to Bart. Tag. Go, Tag.
The other thing that really bothers me is that these right wingers are constantly gaslighting us to believe something other than the truth. And that's
Thank you, brother.
Really a big problem. Thanks for that. I'll go.
You nailed it. Let's go, Bart. Come on in, brother Bart. You're on.
Yeah, Tag, Johnny. You are an idiot. You think the border's closed, the economy's great, and there's no crime. You're being lied to. And I am a Christian constitutionalist, Tag. And I bet you $100 you won't let any immigrants in your house.
Actually, that's not true. But I mean, we can't, Bart, I can't help that you're an intelligent person, Bart. I have spoken to you on other issues. I can't help that your prejudices makes you choose to not be informed. But at some point, I hope you continue to listen and we could come to common ground where your prejudices can overturn your block to truth. But we'll talk another time because I'm out of time. Let's go to Patrick.
Thank you for call.
Come on in, Patrick.
Thumbs up to Tag. The only time I've ever had a car vandalized is when I had a Jill Stein bumper sticker on it. But I wanted to give Brian something to think about. If you see a majority of the country swinging in a direction that you don't agree with, and you're still trying to find a loophole to keep people from making that choice, what level of democracy do you want to participate in? One that forces that out, the popular vote? I don't think that's healthy for anybody. Just something to think about. That's it.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Okay, let's go to John Garcia. Real quick, John Garcia. We got about a minute and a half.
Hello, Egberto. About Trump, of course, it's incredible how people is thinking and voting for a sex abuser and everything else of that person. The Republican Party was hijacked by this personalistic movement. They didn't follow a good procedure on electing their candidate. They had this fake primary with all the candidates were from the beginning helping Trump to be elected, so that they were not really contending. But in the other side, they also didn't follow a democratic process to elect their candidate. They didn't go through the primaries and voting. They just selected the candidate from the top, the hierarchy of the party. And that's not processes and that's not rules, like you said. It should be a rule for all the parties to make an open primary every process to select their candidates.
No, again, if the federal government, under the auspices directed by the people, want to do that, they have the ability to do so. That is not the rules within the Democratic Party or the Republican Party right now. The candidates are chosen by delegates.
You cannot name your party the Democratic Party if you don't follow democratic processes. We cannot call America a democratic country, given that the Electoral College elects the president, right? Donald Trump became the president. Donald Trump has never won an election by popular vote ever, right? But he was a substantive president in that he just about destroyed the Supreme Court and did a whole lot of things. We have a lot to work out with. I agree with you, John Garcia. I agree with you that there's a lot to be done. But right now, as it turns out, everything that we are doing, we're following the rule. Trump became president with the minority of the population. Likewise, Kamala was elected by the delegates that were elected by the people. So, hey, the rules were followed if we wanted. Egberto, who elected the delegates if there wasn't a primary? So who who delegates the delegates. So
the delegates what I'm saying, Garcia, what I'm saying is the rules were followed. Look, we don't have a disagreement as far as democracy. What I'm saying is, when it came to what's going on in the party, the rules were followed. That's all.
Well, I don't exactly know what the rules are, and that's the problem. They make.
Okay, let me stop you. Okay, Juan, hey, John, that's what I'm saying now. Here's what I'm saying.
Thank you for your program,
John, here's what I'm saying, my brother. John, listen. Okay, I don't know. The thing about it is, if you want to complain about something, it's important that you know the rules. Don't say that we're not following something when the rules were followed. That's all. When the rules were followed. All right, we got to close this baby out. So give me a closer real quick, Senor Aquino.
Great. You can visit me at HoustonDemocracyProject.com. And this Tuesday, the precinct chairs in Congressional District 18 will be voting for the replacement for Sheila Jackson Lee. And Mayor Turner, I guess, is the favorite. Councilwoman Plummer, State Representative Morales is in the race, and we will see how it goes.
Okay, Studio
is here, and we congratulate you on yet another great show. Jack doesn't have anything for you, and actually, I don't either. So,
okay, well, that,
day, Mr. Egberto, and you too, Neil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, I want to tell all my callers, love you all, and I mean that from the depths of my heart. One of the things I love is humanity. Okay, and let's remember that's exactly who we are. All humans, all the same. Don't let anybody fool you. Don't let the right wing fool you. Okay, we're all the same, and we're all in this boat together. There are a lot that I had to cover here. It's at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are